Hare is on his way. So we will just do one kirtan. When he gets here. Yeah, one, sing. Super graceful. Yeah, use it.
Thank you for keeping that enthusiasm.
Yes, thank you so much, Hansarupa, for being here. I'll just do a quick introduction so we can get to Prabhu's talk. Hansarupa, he joined the Hindu Street Brooklyn Temple in 1974, and he built the first New York Rath Yatra carts in 1976 with Jayananda Prabhu. He organized the first New York Bhakti program in 1977, managed the first Govinda's restaurant in Manhattan in 1978, purchased and renovated the Brooklyn Temple in 1982, built Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan 1984 to 1990, developed the new Raman Reddy Alatra project 1990 to 1995. You've done everything, Prabhu. And worked for software development companies started by his friend Mickey Singer from 1995 to 2002. Started and ran a private detective agency from 2004.
I was going to say you don't have to say that.
So everyone be careful. And it's from 2009 to present, he's the ISKCON DBC lead investigator. And you're the trustee and manager for Care for Cows Vrindavan with his friend and godbrother from Arupa. And from 2017 to present, he's been serving as the ISKCON New York City Temple President and aspiring servant of Sri Radha Govinda Dev, their beloved lordship. So thank you so much for being here today. He's going to speak to us on developing a service attitude, which from his life, he clearly has. Thank you so much.
I like the reception when you come in and you have to sign that paper, because that is always the first step when someone comes, because eventually you want everyone to feel a part of Prabhupada's family. And the best way is to engage in some activity related to devotional service. And for those who aren't familiar with the term devotional service, in a temple, everything you do is devotional service. It just looks a little different from your perspective when you first come in. It might appear to be sweeping the floor, washing the pots, cleaning the toilets. All these things have their counterpart in the spiritual world, not to the extent that you're cleaning a toilet, because obviously you have a spiritual body. But it's the attitude that we develop. So that service attitude begins here. You know, when we come to devotional service, when we come to the Gaudiya line, you know, this is that's the most common aspect. And it's there in every situation. There's one story, of course, today is Gundicha Marjana, the cleaning of the Gundicha temple. Well, Lord Chaitanya personally showed by example this service attitude, cleaning the temple. He had instructed his men, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't have a temple per se. I think everyone knows that. He just did Nagar Sankirtan. And in his youth he had a toll. A toll is a school, and he would teach his students there, but he never had a fixed situation. When he was in Puri, his Auntie Lila, 24 years, he had a room there, and that Gambira was his, you could say, his hermitage. And so he stayed there. But he had a standing instruction. He had a standing instruction for all of his men that whenever you go to a temple, that you must report to the Math Commander. The Math Commander means the temple commander. So this is an old tradition. It's not something new developed by ISKCON, where, you know, somebody comes in and engages you in some service. No, it's very old. And so you were allowed to be a visitor to the temples, like if you go to Balaji and Tirupati, or if you go to Puri, Lord Jagannath, you could visit there if you were a devotee, but you could do your pilgrimage, your yatra, if you wanted to visit to the different temples in that particular area for 3 days. After 3 days, you were obliged, if you wanted to stay longer, you were obliged to go to the Math Commander, the temple commander, and he would assign you some service. So this is their standard tradition. It's not something that Prabhupada just brought it here in an unfamiliar way to us. And we can see that Srila Prabhupada was simultaneously the founder Acharya. He was the temple president. He was the cook, the cleaner, and the temple commander. And you know, so we know all these things. And they were amply demonstrated and exemplified by Srila Prabhupada's personal acts. He even got down to show devotees how to clean the floor with a rag, like this. So sometimes we may experience some discomfort depending on our social level. Maybe we're not used to doing service like that. What's that sign that we have in the temple room? No, in the prasadam room. It says, clean up after yourself. Your mother doesn't live here. Okay? So that there's a tendency to think that someone else would do it. But this is not, especially for the Vaishnava. Prabhupada specifically said, a Vaishnava cleans where he eats and where he sleeps. Very simple instructions. But the purport, the import of that is responsibility. And then it begins as soon as you rise. It doesn't begin after you've chanted your 16 rounds and gone to Bhagavatam class. No, as soon as you get up, you clean where you slept. You roll up your bedding. You go take shower. You begin to get ready from the very first start. He also said that as soon as you wake up, you chant the name of the deity or the spiritual master. So when we rise, we say, Jai Radha Govinda. You know, this just puts us back to where we're supposed to be after rising from 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in the mode of ignorance. Because that's what sleep is. Ultimately, sleep is like, probably compared it to death. And of course, in that deep sleep state, one of the 4 states of waking, dreaming, deep sleep, etc. And then there's another level that where one is actually in a completely different consciousness. It's not transcendental, just as many people call it, out of the body. And it can be used only by great yogis, who have studied the ability to control this situation. And they can use that, they can go anywhere. When they go visit on these astral planes, they're not using their physical bodies most of the time. They can. But it's not, we haven't seen it in this age, put it that way. But we were just reading in 3rd canto of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. The Kardama Muni could create at will a city that floated, and not just float, that was propelled. And he could go throughout the universe, and not just this universe, any universe he wanted to. So this type of travel, we see that there is documentation, but of course we have no knowledge of it. No real knowledge, no tangible, touchable knowledge. We go, sometimes we see the space shuttles. I took the kids yesterday to the Intrepid Museum, and we saw the Challenger. Well, one of the shuttles. Challenger's gone, but one of the shuttles was there. And you see that this is all, basically not a very complex piece of machinery, and wherever it went, it didn't stay for long, and then it came back. And this is very Ugrasik, this type of technology. They're very advanced in the lower material planets. If you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the lower heavenly planets, very highly technically advanced, much more advanced than we are. And why is it called lower? Because it's completely ruled by this pursuit of endless sense gratification, which is where we're approaching in Kali Yuga. Of course, it only goes so far, though. You can, the body, what do they say about people who try to enjoy too much? They get burnt out. Right? We've heard that common saying. Because the senses, we want to enjoy unlimitedly, but the body is already limited. And so the way out is to develop this service attitude, which at the end of this particular chapter, 23rd chapter, Devahuti, she requests Kardama Muni that you have given me so many things. A city that goes anywhere in the universe, thousands of maidservants. You've restored me to my original condition after she had been worked. She had neglected herself for so many years. But you haven't given me one thing. And that one thing is fearlessness. She had everything else, everything that you can conceive of, materially speaking. The greatest wealth, the greatest pleasure, unlimited pleasure, materially. But in all of that, still, she didn't have what she wanted and what she understood to be the end goal of the human endeavor was fearlessness. And that fearlessness, most people would consider to be free from the fear of birth, death, old age, and disease. And we have, so how to achieve that? By engaging in a liberated attitude of service, where I'm no longer concentrating on the needs of this material body. But that requires some engagement, not just some engagement. Technically, it requires everything you do needs to be connected to something transcendental. The deity service, the service of the spiritual master, any other related service that enhances those two. The deities are, as a matter of fact, we're having a deity worship course at the Brooklyn Temple. And we immediately opened it and immediately filled. People want to come and they want to learn this ancient art of deity service. Because it almost fully engages the mind. Prabhupada gave us an instruction that from 4 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, one should be completely engaged in the service of the deity. And that doesn't mean necessarily on the temple, but everything in the temple is service to the deity. Whether you're a receptionist, whether you're a cook, whether you're a cleaner, it doesn't matter. It's all service to the deity. Because the deity is the proprietor. Just like here, we know who is the proprietor. You know, it's not my building. It's not our building. It's not even this, technically the society's building in one sense. You know, if Krishna wanted to make an arrangement to leave, it would happen automatically without anyone's intervention. He would say no. And it has happened. People, you know, and where there's neglect, Krishna doesn't have to stay. You know, he'll just make some arrangement and go. And then it's our choice whether to follow or not, depending on the situation. So all these things are happening, all these arrangements are going on, and we have an opportunity to dovetail ourselves into this sequence of Krishna's pastimes. Because these are also Krishna's pastimes. You know, it may not seem like that to our limited vision, but there's no question that Lord Chaitanya inaugurated this movement. It was predicted that it would spread outside the boundaries of India in the Chaitanya Bhagavata. And most scholars accept that this was an indication, a foretelling of Srila Prabhupada's appearance. Everything we saw about that, with hindsight being 2020, we can reconstruct that timeline and see exactly how Lord Chaitanya has arranged, not just how Krishna has arranged it. But it takes a little, how can you say, perspective, which is not, it's like they say, you have to think outside the box. So you have to think outside the material box, not just the so-called, you know, Venn diagrams and these other type of boxes. We really need to take a step back and see, where am I in this scheme of things? One time Prabhupada used to joke with Tamal Krishna, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very intelligent. He was always a close personal associate of Prabhupada, served him in many ways. But everyone who was associated with Tamal Krishna Maharaj knew that he had a bit of an ego. And ego is not a problem if it's properly dovetailed, you know, because it allows you sometimes to do things. Like they went to London, and they specifically went there to engage with the Beatles, which they did successfully. But that takes a little initiative, and sometimes that initiative can look like ego, or it can even be a byproduct of ego. One wants to do to please the spiritual master. So he said, in trying to put Tamal Krishna Maharaj in a certain perspective, he said, there's a whole universe. And in that universe is one planet, Earth planet. There's many planets, but then there's one planet, the Earth planet. There's many countries, and of all these countries, there's this country. And then in that country, there's so many cities, and so many towns, and so many people. They said, and then you go down and down and down, and then in this one place, here's Tamal Krishna, right here, like that. And he thinks he's so important. But he's just one person in this movement. So that was Prabhupada's, how he would mildly chide, the devotees to give them some perspective, not to think that there's something special. Because ultimately, we're all servants. And that's what that service attitude is meant to develop. The sense of being a servant of Krishna. Not a servant to anyone else. Ultimately not a servant to the family, or to the society, or to the nation. Because all those things have to go. Have anyone's ever read Vrindavan Bhajan, the poem translated by Jayapataka Maharaj? Have anyone read Vrindavan Bhajan? Beautiful poem, Kavi. You should read it. So in it, Prabhupada gives, it begins a bit like a lamentation. Where have all these family members gone? Where have all these friends gone? Where have all my associates gone? Where have all these people gone? Now there's simply a list of names. Everyone has left me. So this is, but then Prabhupada goes on and explains that this is all Krishna's arrangement in order to bring him to a certain position. And because he was sensitive to that, therefore he accepted it. He said, I never wanted to take sannyas. My spiritual master forced me to take sannyas. But how did he force it? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta left in 1936. Prabhupada took sannyas in 1959. So that's quite a gap. So how was he forcing? Because he would appear to Srila Prabhupada in a dream and remind him that he had work to do. This is the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, so strong. Doesn't matter how many years. But the order is such a potent force in and of itself. And Prabhupada told us that any success is already in the order of the spiritual master. Doesn't require it. All you have to do is follow it. If he says go to China and preach, you go to China and preach, you'll be successful. When he told the devotees to go to Iran, of all places, they went there and their preaching was amazing up until 1979. One of the most favorable preaching atmospheres at that time. Who could imagine? Yeah, we'll take questions at the end. And just by following the order of the spiritual master. Prabhupada said, anyone who preaches in the Muslim countries, I take the dust from his feet and I put it on my head. Such a, so we've seen how anyone who follows Prabhupada's instructions, takes his order to heart and executes them, he gets full facility. So how, you wonder, how did that happen? So that service attitude breeds faith. And of course, faith, even the materialists, what do they say? Faith moves mountains. But it's not an ordinary faith. This is a faith based on realization, not belief. All right? So there's a big difference. If one examines carefully, what is this faith that comes Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dhamyam Susukamka. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. So this is devotional service in a nutshell, Rajavidya. And everyone who stays, anyone, you can ask, why are you here? Because Prabhupada gave some tangible realization. We were exposed to something which could not have been purchased for any amount of money. Being in Prabhupada's presence was, well, there's many terms to describe it. Some call it shadow attachment in one sense. We're trying to, we don't know who Krishna, we know who Krishna is, but we don't know Krishna. But we could know Srila Prabhupada. And by serving Prabhupada, we could feel his devotion, if you can appreciate that. We could feel his devotion. And it was manifest when he would do his bhajans or his kirtans or his classes. We were there feeling it, this pratyaksha, this tangible experience. So tangible. And so that, of course, allowed the movement to grow because it cemented devotees' attachment and willingness to do anything and everything for Srila Prabhupada. Anything and everything. So that sense should not dissipate simply due to a loss of time. One's faith in Prabhupada's words, his deeds, everything is there. He told us before he left, he said, I'm not leaving you. So I'm going into your heart. So anyone who takes seriously the order of Srila Prabhupada, he has that same facility. He can feel Srila Prabhupada's order, not just superficially. He can feel the weight of it, and he can feel that if I do this, I will get mercy. Real mercy. But it's not, many people are a little bit hesitant to go out on a limb, so to speak. If I do this, you go to some place where there's no temple, what do? How do you make a temple? Prabhupada said you just go there. Krishna va ananyas chintayanto mam. He will do everything. We don't have to do anything. But you have to be the instrument. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachim. You have to put yourself in that position, and then Krishna and Prabhupada will use you. And it all comes from the faith developed by a service attitude. Because without faith, without the service attitude, there's no faith. And without that service attitude, faith will dissipate after some time. But that's, I think all of you are experienced devotees here. I don't really see any newcomers. Oh, you're a newcomer. Okay, we're going to answer all your questions. But this is similar when have you read Bhagavad Gita? Have you had a small copy of Bhagavad Gita? Yeah.
I started reading it, but I kind of put that on the back burner. I'm reading the Science of
Self-realization. Yeah, good. That's good. We distribute more Science of Self-realization than any other book, except the small pamphlets which we practically give away. And more devotees that I know, when I ask them, which book did you read, what was your first book? They say Science of Self-realization. Because we distribute so many. And it's so clear, Prabhupada conversing with ordinary devotees that you would meet anywhere, on the bus, on the subway, professionals here and there. Very clear. And he's speaking to them according to their level of understanding. So it's a real remarkable way to see how Srila Prabhupada preached. According to it. We say time and circumstance, but it's really not for us to say. But we can see it in action. So if someone was to say, well, how do I develop the service attitude? What do I do? What's the first thing I can do? First thing is to know, to determine, who am I? Sambandha. What is my relationship with Krishna? Abhideya. And Prayojan. What is the goal? And these three things are in every aspect of our lives. Every aspect. Right? So we have to know, who am I? Right? Isn't this the eternal question? Hasn't this been asked since time immemorial? Who am I? And the second thing is, who is God? And then logically, what is my relationship with God? So when we can try to just appreciate that first step. Who am I and who is God and what is our relationship? That's the beginning of trying to adjust. Why am I then looking everywhere else externally for happiness or satisfaction or fulfillment. Because none of these things, I mean, if we look, historically speaking, we don't see anyone that's achieved a perfect situation. It's never been documented. Because it doesn't exist. Have we ever seen anyone who can say that he's never had any doubt or delusion or worry no, it doesn't. Everyone who has a material body and a material mind has these adhyatmic, adhibodic, and adhidaivic, these three concomitant miseries of the material world, caused by other living entities, caused by my mind, caused by the devas or the material energy. Right? These things are all there. They'll always be there. They don't go away. You can't say, I don't want, try to find a place where it never rains, and what happens? You end up in a desert. And then what? What do you do in a desert? You bake. And then you wish you were in a place that rained. Right? So you can't try to adjust material circumstances. So I don't like sun, so I'll go to some place where there's eternal shade. Where is that? So all these adjustments, no, you cannot adjust things in the material world for perfect happiness, perfect situation. But you can find peace. Yaj gyatva mam shantam richati. This is the key. When we understand who is the actual controller of everything, then I'm not trying to think. I'm not trying to seed the clouds with chemtrails to, block out the sun and, create some artificial atmospheric condition. This is, what do they say? When you play with, you don't try to fool Mother Nature. That was an old, what was it? A margarine commercial, I think, right? You can't fool Mother Nature. Somebody's trying to substitute this, fake butter. So you can't fool Mother Nature. And if you try, you'll be more than disappointed. Because it leads ultimately to a completely contrary condition. That which is not. That is the definition of Maya, illusion. We could say that Maya is forgetfulness of Krishna. That's certainly a fact. That which is not Krishna, that is Maya. But it is also illusion. And we're already covered over by this misconception that I am this body, or I'm a man, or I'm a woman, like that. And we can compound that illusion, to an unlimited degree. But it won't bring you any other solace. No peace, no happiness. But if you just accept, and not without questioning, if you just accept that God is the controller, and most people do, they don't always call him God. Some say, they'll say Mother Nature. That's fine, yes. But then if there's mother, there has to be father. So who is that? And every religion addresses God as the Father, or the Creator, or the most merciful. So there's so many ways. But ultimately you accept that God exists. So that's the first step. And then if you're intelligent, you look around, you'll see there's so many things not under my control. The orbit of the planets, the sun, the moon, the stars. These things all have their own fixed rotation. I'm not controlling them. The tides of the ocean, I'm not controlling them. And some will say the moon, but it's all right. So what about the moon? How is the moon remaining in its orbit? Well, they'll say that there's certain gravitational influences from larger planets or this or that, but they can't really explain it. How did gravity come into effect? What came first? The Big Bang or gravity? So it's an exercise in futility. And they exemplify it in that parable, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Right? Has anyone answered that question yet? Or maybe one of our scientists in the back can answer that question. So we just try to appreciate that an intelligent person who's not overly intelligent, he's not trying to stand out by developing some alternate theory on the relative existence of this material world and how we perceive it. The simple thing is to say that yes, it exists before me and it'll exist after me. Right? And that, but what can I do? I can become peaceful through the process of self-realization by developing my eternal identity as a servant, by engaging in service to crystallize that relationship with God. So this Sambandha Abhideya Parojan, this everything, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta emphasized this. You'd think it's such a simple thing, but he stressed this so much. Just this three simple things. Who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship with God? And what is the ultimate goal of this relationship? And one can find parallels within all of our existence with when we go to seek our soulmate. You know, we have to identify whether this person is actually compatible. You know, we go through the motions of introduction and then establishing courtship, relationship. And then, of course, the goal of that relationship, which is to come together and just, well, the progenitors, the procreators, it is all coming down from that same level, but on a smaller scale. So for us, Prema Pumartha Maha, that's our goal. To come into this realization that I am a servant. And I want to understand my relationship with Krishna because that's the service I want. I don't want service to the demigods. I don't want service to any mundane. I'm only concerned with how to reawaken my dormant identity. Because along with that dormant identity as a servant of God, everything else becomes simple. No complications. Prabhupada said simple for the simple at heart, difficult for the crooked. And so some people will say, well, why are you trying to condense everything so simply? You know, you can say, yes, we're servants of Krishna, we're servants of God. And Prabhupada used the analogy that everybody is serving somebody. People who are not in devotional service, sometimes they have to take up some humanitarian welfare work because that's our nature, to serve. That is our dharma, to serve. The dharma of water is wet, the dharma of the chili is hot, the dharma of sugar is sweet. It means the essence. In common terms, people use the term dharma interchangeably with religion. But it essentially means our eternal relationship with Krishna. That is the essence of our existence. You know, and apart from that, we really only have a temporary existence. We don't have an eternal existence. We'll just go back into the cycle, the samsara of birth and death. To again be born, to again die. And this the symbol for infinity, the Mobius strip, is very appropriate. Because unless you meet the spiritual master, you cannot cut that ribbon. And so that's why we're so keen on distributing as many books as possible, to give someone an opportunity to find the absolute truth. The truth without relativity. The truth that gives you the ability to become free from the troubled mind. Because everyone has a troubled mind in the material world. Some people's minds are so troubled that they go out and they commit mass murder. That's how troubled their minds are. Because they can't distinguish between what is real and what is not. So that their mind says, go and kill this person, they do it. There's no demarcation between sanity and insanity. Sanity means we control the mind, we understand. We know how to put limits on it. Yes, everyone may have come across some situation Prabhupada gives the example. That a person walks to the edge of a cliff. His mind says jump, but his intelligence says no. Prabhupada used that analogy. How many times have you walked to the edge of a high precipice, and in the back of the mind it says, I wonder what it would be like to jump. Right? But our intelligence says, no, you don't need to find out. No, obviously. But yet the mind proposes such weird things. How did it get there? Where is it coming from? So anyway, so the first thing in Krishna consciousness, when we're engaged in cleansing the mirror of the mind. So this is what this service is doing, this Chaita Darpana Marjan. And why it's so important to develop a service attitude. Because it's cleansing the mirror from all the dirt accumulated from millions of births. And it gives us an ad. So just like a mirror that's dirty, we don't get an accurate reflection. You have to polish it. And then you can see who is the true self. And if there's anything that needs to be done, you can adjust it. Clean the mirror a little bit more and more until you can use it to reflect the actual nature of the soul. So what time do we go on till?
12:30 is arti.
12:30 is Artik. So we want to leave some time for questions. Because otherwise the Artik is so beautiful. Of course, yes, you're first.
Okay, only because I'm not sure what was the incident that happened in 1979 in Iran.
What happened was that was the Iranian Revolution.
Okay.
The religious fanatics, the mullahs, wanted to impose the strictest form of Sharia. But the
I thought Iran was always under Sharia.
no,
Okay, I learned
they were
something.
very. Iran was called the Paris, and actually that was Lebanon, but it had a similar reputation. They were so advanced, so culturally, how can you say, astute, and that they had a very progressive outlook, and they were very accepting of Krishna consciousness and yoga. But the mullahs didn't like that. And we're not sure that we caused the revolution, but there's no doubt that they were not happy that the Shah of Iran was one of the students of my godbrother, Parivrajacharya, who was learning yoga, Bhakti yoga. So the whole royal family was engaged in Krishna consciousness. And that definitely had an effect on the mullahs. They didn't like that one bit. And so some say it's a coincidence, but you know, Krishna has his own way of doing things. There's many devotees still in Iran, but they practice underground. Because to be known as a devotee in Iran is a death penalty.
Yeah.
You know, so the same thing goes for China. When I was in China, those devotees who have already been arrested and released from prison, in one sense they're liberated because the Chinese Communist Party already has them marked as devotees, and they can't do anything really to them. Matter of fact, they told them, and because they only preach in very small situations, house programs, they said, we don't work the little piglets. He says, if you get fat, then we slaughter you. That was their response, Chinese Communist government, to devotees who are preaching in China. Chinese devotees. In other words, don't get big. If you get big, we'll smash you. If you stay small and we can monitor you easily, you know, we'll let you go. We'll tolerate you. So that's why preaching hasn't expanded so far and wide in China. Because they come down very heavy. Yes.
One more question.
Sure.
Do you think that extremism could hit this country?
You say that again?
Wait, let me say this a little bit more. Do you believe that extremism, like what happened in Iran and in China, could hit this country?
It can happen to any country. When the leaders are godless, when they don't want to follow, like we have a very nice history. It says, in God we trust. But, we see that, more and more as Kali Yuga progresses, there's moral degradation across the face of the globe. It may happen quicker in one place, slower in another place, but it's inevitable eventually. Because as people become godless, then they have no constraint. They don't see anything wrong with their actions. No one is checking them. See, the laws of God are very stringent. If you eat too much, what happens? You get fat, you get diabetes, you have to take medication. Eventually you start to lose limbs, go blind, and you die. So if you engage in certain activities, there's immediate consequences in some. I mean, everyone knows what an STD is. These things don't happen accidentally.
What is that?
That's just, yeah, see, he was just joking. He was testing me. So these things come from, you don't get them if you have, a stable marriage and you have a single partner, as God intended. But if you like to go and, out and have fun, then eventually, things will catch up to you. Right? In the military, my older kids were in the military. These things, the military, they go all over the world. And these kids, they think, well, I'm here, I might as well enjoy. But then you get back and all of a sudden you're underway and you find out you've got something. You brought a souvenir with you back on the boat. And then you have to take the medication. So all these things are there. But nobody looks for the little things to try to, how to learn from others. So what are the 4 levels of intelligence? First class intelligence is to learn by hearing. You tell your kids, don't touch the fire. If they listen, that's perfect knowledge. They'll never get burned. Second class intelligence means to understand, to learn by seeing. You see someone else get burned. They say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be one of those guys who says, hold my beer. Third class intelligence means that I have to personally experience it. All right? That you can in some situations you only get one chance. All right? And then you're dead. So who wants to do that? But then there's even a 4th class intelligence that even after hearing, seeing, experiencing, still one does not learn. That's called 4th class intelligence. What does that mean? It means he'll continue to repeat the same action. It's a definition of insanity, right? To do the same thing repeatedly and expect a different result. Where's our Psych 101 guys? What is that? Right? That's the definition, the clinical definition of insanity. So that's 4th class intelligence. So we avoid all that. You completely skip. In this human life, you just jump right to the top. You get Bhagavad Gita, you understand the topmost knowledge at Rajavidya. You don't have to, all you have to do is read it. And it simply tells you, you don't need to take birth again. There's an exit where you can Tyaktva deham punarjanma nayati mamete sojana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance, Krishna's appearance and disappearance, he never takes birth again in this material world. And at the end, he goes back home, back to Godhead. Because he knows that realm exists. Sometimes you're scrolling and it pops up. They want to advertise some tropical paradise. Why? Because people want to go to someplace nice. So if there's a little pop-up on Facebook page that says, hey, you can go to the spiritual world. This is the best place. And you don't have to pay anything and you never come back. And you live there for eternity without any cares or concerns. And people think, no. Actually, if someone was to tell you that, you would think that it was a scam. Right? Because it's too good to be true. But yet, that's the reality. That is the reality. And we're living on the illusion. We go to sleep, we dream for 6-8 hours. That's also illusion. It's a different reality. I'm asleep in my bed, but I'm traveling all over wherever. Maybe I visited 20 countries in this life. Maybe I lived in a different country, another life, and I'm seeing all these places. Or I'm flying in the sky. Who has it got? So all these things are just past life experiences, all mixed up. Because all these memories are in there. So we can talk more after the arti. It's beautiful. Thank everyone for coming. We can continue the conversation anytime. Come. Oh, everyone has to come to the temple tonight in Brooklyn. Because Radhanath Maharaj is going to be speaking.
Ciao.
Did anybody not know that? That's a special. Confirmed, 6 p.m. Okay, so everyone's invited to Skimmerhorn Street for Kirtan, Arti, Pravachan.
Hansarupa Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Sravana Mudita Chandra ki. So next program is the Arati. So can you kindly remove the red seats and please invite everybody to come here for near the altar. We have Kirtan.
No, you guys go ahead. I'm going to have to take the pen. I got to go back and get the temple waiting for they get all over. I didn't know. How are you? I'm not sure. You have anything taken out? I'm sure the kids would enjoy it.
Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine
Hare
Shri Advaita Kimatara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinditi Shri Shri Radha Krishna Bhagavata Shyamakunda Bhagavinda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Navadvip Madhur Dham Ki Shri Madhura Dham Ki Purushottam Kshetra Shmata Puri Dham Ki Nandramaya Ki Purnamaya Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vinditi Ki Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Nanditara Gaura Premana. All glories to the Central Throne. All glories to the Central Throne. All glories to the Central Throne.